Hi all, today we will see how QTP uses Excel as a database. I have an Excel sheet which captures the test results of a particular run. I have around 25 test cases in that. So the first column tells me it is a test case ID. The second column just gives me a brief description of that test case. Like the user tried to log in with an invalid username, the second one says login with an invalid password. So these are different scenarios, or I could say in short it's a high level description of this particular test case ID. What is the status of that particular test case after run? So after I execute, the first test case was passed and the second test case got failed, and there's a bug raised for the same in the comments column. So all the test cases which has got failed will have a status, will have a bug number in the comments column, and the status would be fail. Now my first objective is to find out how many test cases got failed. So if I count manually, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So I have in total 8 test cases that has got failed. So my first objective is to get the count of how many test cases got failed. So to attain this objective, I need to establish a connection between QTP and Excel. For this, I'll be using an object of type ADODB. ADODB is a driver which helps us to connect any tool with a database. So how do I use it? Create an object. So whatever you see in the green color which starts with a single quotes, it means it's a comment. It will not get executed. Set mycon equal to create object ADODB dot connection. So in short, I have made an object. Whenever you see a keyword set space something, it means it is an object. Now what is the type of the object? The type of the object is ADODB dot connection. So what does mycon do? Mycon basically creates a connection between the tool and the Excel. The code for establishing the connection is mycon dot open, and you can see there's a string here. This string gives us the information to which database are we trying to connect. This says it is trying to connect to a Excel. Now here we should mention the path of that Excel sheet. So the path of the Excel sheet is this is the Excel sheet, and I will take the entire path from here, copy it and paste it in the place where path was written, and the read only is true. It means you can only read the Excel. Now the next step is, now with this line of code, the connection between QTP and the Excel has been established. Now we need to read the contents from that Excel sheet. Now Excel will have multiple set of tabs. You can create n number of tabs here, right? So I would be interested to read a particular tab. So in my objective, I have to read the tab test result, right? So I am going to use another object that will be used specifically for this particular tab. So what's the code for that? So create an object. Sorry guys, create an object. Now this set myrs, it means myrs is also an object and it's of class or type is create object adodb dot record set. mycon and myrs both are object, but they are of different types. One is of type adodb.connection and the other is of type adodb.recordset. Now myrs will help us to interact with a particular sheet in an Excel. Here we are going to interact with test result. Now how do we interact? Now if your database consists of these things and you need to find out how many fails are there, basically the count of it. So how do you do that? You normally say select count star from so and so table where the status equal to fail. So this is the normal SQL query that we write if we have a selection criteria. The same thing here also we are going to write. The code is something like this. It's myrs dot open select count star. Those who are not aware of this query, I'll explain you in detail once I write this down. Select count star from. Now from, you write the table name. Here the table name would be the sheet name. So our sheet name is test result. So it is test. Remember, it is case sensitive. You have to write exactly the same way it is written here. It's test result. So R is capital and a dollar symbol. So this signifies that is the table. Now my condition is where, which field tells me the status of the test case is pass or a fail. The field is status. This column tells me whether the status of the test case is a pass or a fail. So my column name would be status. I would be saying status is equal to, I'm interested now to see all the test cases which are fail. So the status is fail, F is capital. So make sure it is in the same case that you give and then close the double quotes, comma mycon. This statement, what it means is it will try to execute this query with the help of the connection string mycon, and mycon is defined in the line 6, right? Now those who are new to SQL query, I'll just briefly tell you what this means. This means select count star. So it means it will count how many records are there with status fail. So hope everybody is clear with this. It's a basic SQL statement to find how many are there with a particular search criteria. Now I will get this output of this query will be only one value. That will be a numeric value which says how many count, how many are there, the number of the test cases which are failed. So always count star gives you a numeric value. So I'll get only one field. So I would say message box myrs 0. It means it indicates the first field, okay, and it will give me the value myrs of 0. Once I get the value, guys who are new to VB, I would like to say message box is basically a pop-up which will show the value that is the output from this query. Now after our work is done, we need to release the objects. Now how do we release the objects in VB? The code is set. We have two objects, so release will be done for all the objects that we create in our script. It's part of a good practice. Which all objects we have created? We have created mycon and we have created myrs. So whichever object is created last will be released first. So the last created object was myrs, so I will say myrs equal to nothing and set mycon equal to nothing. This will release both these objects. Now our code is ready. We'll try to run this code. So make sure before you run this code that your Excel which you're trying to access is closed. Now let's run this code and see what it gives. Run. So we are expecting a count of 8. So you can see we have got count 8, right? So which is absolutely correct. Now let's test this code to find out how many are there with a pass. So I will open the Excel sheet and let's do a manual check first before running the script. So pass is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. So we have basically 17 test cases that are pass. Let's see whether our script gives me the right value. So what change should I make to the script? Instead of fail, I will write pass. Let's run this script and see. So now we are expecting a count of 17. Yes, we have got the same count. So guys, I hope everybody is clear on connecting or using an Excel as a DB. We have written SQL query on a Excel. Now this is to get a count. Now suppose you want to select or see the value of specific fields, like suppose you want to get all the information wherever the test cases are failed, like you want to get the information like test case ID, test description and the comment field whenever the test case is failed. So the exercise remains the same. The only thing we need to capture this information, additional information. Now for this we have to tweak or change our SQL query. Our current SQL query only captures the count star. What we are going to capture now is we are going to capture the test case ID, test description and the comment field for all the test cases that are failed. So to do that, my entire script remains the same. Okay, so the guys who are interested to keep the code as it is, I'm going to just comment this part line of code, this part of my code and this part of code. So guys who want to try the previous exercise, they can use this code, uncomment this code, and I will just better put this to find the count of test cases for a particular status. So whenever you want to find the count of how many test cases passed or failed, you can use this line of code. You can just uncomment this line of code and execute it. Now I'm going to use this set of code again for my second objective, that is basically to find or get the additional information like test case ID, description and comment for any test case that has got failed. Now how do I do that? So this path remains the same, set my rs, this thing. Now my rs dot open, now our query changes. The query will be now select, instead of count star it would be the field names. I can give, remember these are all case sensitive, you should give the way it is in the Excel. Description, copy, comma, and we need to copy comments column. So these are three fields for which we are interested to see the information for any failed test case. Now select these fields from which table? Now the table would be, I'm just copying it from the above sentence, it would be test results, because these reside in the sheet test results, where now I'm going to get this information for all the test cases which have got the fail status. So for that I'm going to write status equal to fail, it is exact same criteria which we used in the previous objective, comma, this remains the standard here, mycon. Now the earlier SQL query always used to give us a single value, but this SQL query will give us 8 rows of different value. It's not one single value, it's 8 rows of value. Basically this is one row, second row, third row, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth. So we have 8 rows of data, so we cannot read it a single line of code. So probably we will have to write, when there are multiple set of or multiple rows of data, we need to use a for loop or any kind of loop, either a for loop, a do while loop or a while loop. In this case I am going to use a do while loop. Now how do you use a do while loop? Do while, do while, okay, I need a space in between. Now what is the condition? The condition would be not my rs dot end of file. It means keep doing the things that is mentioned inside this do loop till you reach the end of the record. That means till you finish reading the 8 records, you keep doing what is written inside this loop. So here the method is myrs.end of file. myrs.end of file indicates the end of that result. So the 8th result, or you can say after the 8 will be referred as end of file. Now what do you need to do? You need to read all the contents like test case ID, description and comments. Now this query gives me 3 of the things. 3 of those things, that is test case ID, test description and comments. Now how do I read this? I'll read it like this: message box my rs. Either you can give index, test case ID will be index 0, test description will be index 1 and comments would be index 2. So either you can give an index or you can write the column heading as it is. I'll use both of them, so don't get confused, it's an optional way, you can use any of this. Either you can give the column heading or you can use the index. This would be test description and I'm just copy pasting again my rs comments. So suppose in this example what I'll use is, I know this starts, this is index 0, 1 and 2, so I'm going to use here as 2, Either you can use an index or you can give that column name, right? So instead of comments I'm using 2 because test case ID is 0, test description is 1, and comments is 2. Now whenever you write a loop, make sure you increment the loop. If you're using a for loop, you need not do that, but all the other loops like do while, you have to use a incrementer. Now how do you use a incrementer? In this case you can say my rs dot move next. MyRS.move next will make sure your record increments from one record to the another. So when you are the first case, when you are in the first row of the record, you will read all this content, then it will go to the next row of that record. So ideally speaking, when you are first will be this row. When myrs.move next is encountered here, it will go to the next row, that is gs underscore 006. And we can read all the contents. So our code is ready. Let's run this code and see. I'm just going to close this Excel. Make sure you always close the Excel before you run your script. So when I run my code, let's see what happens. If you see, now we have got an run error. Let's read what it is. It says Microsoft ODBC Excel driver syntax error in the query expression test description. If you see test description, there is a space between test and description. So the rule is there should not be any space between the words in a column heading. So if you see there, you can see underscore here. There is no space in between the words. But in this column, if you see test, then a space, then description. This is not allowed in an SQL query. So what we should make sure is, in our test result sheet, we should make this space as an underscore and then save it. Just going to close this. I'm coming back to my query and going to change this as underscore, and even here I'm going to change it as underscore. Now let's run the script and see whether it works. So now if you see, I have GS. The first test case is 2. This is the comment. Second test case is 6. This is the test description of that same, and this is the comment field. So you're getting all the information one by one. DB can be read only cell by cell. You cannot read the entire row in a single shot. What if you want to see all this value as a single row by row, you need to do a little modification in your code. Now we have seen all the values that were failed. Now suppose I want this result is displayed one by one. It shows one first test case ID, then the test description and the comments. Now suppose I want to see all this in a single shot, row by row. So what I'll do is, apart from collecting all this, I will also collect one more thing. I will concatenate all the above 3 results or the output. Now how do I do that? Message box. You can take this first, that is myRS of test case ID. We will concatenate this with a colon. Now how do you do that? You use an ampersand symbol, then double quotes, colon, double quotes. Colon is a hard-coded value, so that's why I have put this into a double quotes. Colon is a string, so I put that into a double quotes. Then ampersand. Ampersand is used to concatenate the different parameters. Now the second is description. Copy this here. Then I'm going to again concatenate this with a colon, close the double quotes, ampersand. The third is myrs2. So now you will be able to see, apart from single values, you will be able to see all this value concatenated with a colon. Let's run this and see what result you get. So this is one by one value, and this is a single value which shows GS002. This is the description, and this is the bug details or the comment field. Click on OK. You get similarly all the other results. So now you can see that you are reading the entire content from Excel with the help of a SQL query. So here Excel acts as a DB. Now yes, we have completed our reading part. Now here you are always trying to click an OK button because it's a message box. If suppose you are not interested in clicking OK every time, what you can do is you can just replace this with a print. Whenever you replace message box with a print, you will not get a pop-up. Rather, there will be a file open, which is a dynamic file, where you will see all this output written without your interactive clicking done during the execution. Now we have all in print. Now let's run this and see what happens. So now if you see, you can see a print log in the console. So if you click on your output, you can see a print log, which is basically it shows GS02, the description, and this is a comment field, and this is all the values in a single shot. So similarly you have for all particular rows all the values in a single shot, and this displays the same thing that you saw in your pop-up window. The only thing is you need not click an OK button. So guys, I believe this is very informative for you. Thank you all.